Ashley, my daughter-in-law, looked me dead in the eye and said, "You cannot even afford a coffee." Then she laughed, right in front of her coworkers. I didn't say a word. 3 weeks later, she walked into the cafe and saw me, her new boss standing behind the counter. "Guys, please like and subscribe, and tell me where you are watching from." "Thanks. I wasn't even planning to go in that day. I was just out picking up some thread from the craft shop down the street when I passed the cafe, where Ashley works well, where she manages, technically. She has always been proud of that title, throws it around every time family comes over. Manager, like it makes her the CEO of something important. Anyway, I had this little scarf I knitted for her, light blue with a simple edge. Nothing fancy, just a small surprise, folded neatly in my purse. I hadn't seen her in a few days and thought maybe I would stop in, say hello, hand it to her during a quiet moment. Nothing big, just being kind. I walked in, smiled, and stood near the counter waiting for her to notice. She was leaning across the back bar with two of her younger baristas, talking and laughing. She saw me. I know she saw me, but she turned back to them and kept talking. Then she said it, like I wasn't even there. "Oh, that is just my mother-in-law. She pops in sometimes. She is sweet, but she probably cannot even afford a coffee here." And then she laughed. Loud, the kind of laugh people use to make sure everyone hears. The two girls she was with, one with a slick ponytail and the other with long, fake nails, both chuckled along like they were in on something. I stood there, still holding the scarf in my bag, suddenly feeling like I was naked. Ashley added, "Seriously, she paid in coins last time." Coins? I swear, I thought she was joking. She didn't look at me. She didn't have to. They all knew I heard it. I didn't say anything. I just stood still, swallowing hard, pretending my ears weren't ringing. I felt my face go warm, my chest tighten. I nodded like a fool, and slowly turned around, pretending I had somewhere else to be. No one stopped me. No one even called after me to say it was a joke. And it wasn't a joke. That is the part that hit hardest. It was meant to sting. It was meant to make me small. I walked outside and sat on the bench near the bus stop. I wasn't even thinking clearly. The scarf stayed in my bag, still folded. I watched the bus come and go without getting on. I don't know how long I sat there, but the world felt quieter than usual, like everything had gone underwater. I thought about every single thing I would done for her, and for Mark. When they got married and didn't have enough money to furnish the apartment, I paid for the couch, the fridge, even helped cover the deposit. I babysat their son 3 nights a week for nearly a year when they couldn't afford daycare. I would clean their kitchen when Ashley had back-to-back shifts and cooked for them when Mark was working overtime. I never asked for anything, never even raised my voice. But somehow, in her eyes, I was just some broke old woman who couldn't afford coffee, someone to mock for cheap laughs in front of her trendy little crew. And worse, she felt safe enough to do it while wearing a name tag that said, "Manager." That is how I knew she didn't think there would be consequences. That is how I knew Mark wouldn't stand up for me, because if he had, she never would have felt bold enough to humiliate me like that. I went home without saying a word to anyone. I took the scarf out of my bag, placed it in the bottom drawer where I keep old birthday cards and church flyers, and sat at the kitchen table with a cup of tea. No sugar, no milk, just plain bitter tea. I didn't cry, I didn't yell, but something inside me locked into place, a kind of stillness I hadn't felt in years. Not sadness, not anger, just a very sharp, very clean decision. I was done being a joke. I waited until the next morning to tell Mark, not because I was unsure, I wasn't, but because I wanted to give myself a night to cool down. I thought, maybe I would wake up feeling less raw about it. Less embarrassed. I didn't. I barely slept. And when I finally sat down across from him in the kitchen, I wasn't angry, just tired. "Mark," I said, steady as I could. I stopped by the cafe yesterday. Ashley embarrassed me in front of the other staff. She said I couldn't afford coffee, then laughed about it like I wasn't standing there. He didn't even look up at first. He was fiddling with his phone, and for a second, I thought maybe he hadn't heard me, so I said it again, word for word. That is when he sighed and leaned back in his chair, gave me this face like I would dropped a bill in his lap. "Mom," he said. "Come on. I am sure she didn't mean it like that." I blinked. "Mark, I was standing right there." She said it loud enough for the entire front line to hear. She laughed. He shrugged, and I could see it happening in real time. The part where he decided not to deal with it. Ashley jokes like that all the time. It is her sense of humor. You take things personally. That was when Ashley walked in, coffee in one hand, phone in the other, not even pretending to look confused. "Is something wrong?" she asked, setting her cup down with a thud that made the silence louder. Mark glanced at her, then me, then her again, like he was deciding which storm to avoid. I didn't speak. I wanted to hear her version of it. She didn't disappoint. "Your mom misunderstood," she said, not looking at me. "I didn't say she couldn't afford coffee. I just said she doesn't usually order anything when she visits." The girls were asking if she wanted anything. That was a lie. Not even a clever one. Mark looked at her, then back at me. I could see he didn't believe her entirely, but he also didn't want to press it. "Maybe it was just awkward timing," he said. "Let's not make it a thing." That is when I knew he wasn't going to back me up. Not really. Maybe he was tired. Maybe he didn't want to fight with his wife, but the boy I raised, the man I helped build from nothing, had decided I was the inconvenience in the room, not the woman who humiliated me. And it wasn't just this one time. It was the way he looked at Ashley when she talked. Like, she set the pace for how he was supposed to feel. She wrapped her arm around his and said, "Your mom takes things too seriously. It is not my fault she is so sensitive." She said that with a straight face, like I hadn't been the one holding their baby during double shifts, or making meals when they had nothing in the fridge. And he let her. He didn't say, "That is out of line." He didn't say, "Apologize." He just rubbed his temples and said, "Can we not do this right now?" I sat there for a few seconds before nodding. "Sure," I said. "We don't have to do this right now." And I got up and walked to the sink, rinsed my mug, and placed it gently in the rack. The whole time, neither of them said a word. I didn't expect an apology from Ashley, not really, but I thought Mark would at least acknowledge how small that moment made me feel. Instead, he chose the path of least resistance. He chose her. I know he didn't mean to hurt me. That is the thing that stings most. He probably thought he was being neutral, that he was keeping the peace. But when someone you love lets someone else disrespect you, and then tells you to let it go, it is not peace. It is betrayal in slow motion. I left their place around noon, and walked home in the cold without putting my gloves on. Not because I wanted to punish myself, but because I needed to feel something clearer than what was twisting in my chest. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just walked. Quiet. Focused. Like I was trying to step myself out of the part of me that still expected kindness. I knew Ashley didn't like me. I would seen the glances, the passive comments, the way she tried to outshine me in every conversation. But that morning, in my own son's kitchen, I realized she wasn't just annoyed by me. She was threatened by the fact that Mark still cared about me, and she wanted to erase that bond piece by piece until I was nothing but background noise in their life. And Mark? He was letting her. That was the real wound. That was the moment I stopped waiting for them to come around. I didn't know what I was going to do next. Not exactly. But I knew one thing for sure. If respect wasn't going to be offered freely anymore, I would have to take it in a way that couldn't be ignored. They talk about me like I have always been this way, like I was born with threadbare sweaters and coupons in my purse. Just another quiet old woman who doesn't understand phones and buys her shoes from clearance racks. But I wasn't always broke. I wasn't always invisible. Before Ashley came into the picture, and decided I was something to tolerate, before Mark started repeating her words instead of thinking for himself. I had my own life. I ran a small gift shop in town for 8 years. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. I knew my customers by name, wrapped their anniversary gifts myself, and kept handwritten thank you cards taped to the back office wall. It wasn't just a job. It was a place people came when they wanted to feel thought of. I gave that up the year Mark and Ashley got married. They were struggling, young, drowning in rent and wedding payments. Mark didn't ask me for help, but I saw it in his face. The anxiety, the shame. So I sold the shop quietly. No drama. I told everyone I was ready to retire. But the truth was, I drained my savings and handed over more than half of it to cover their down payment, wedding costs, and a chunk of their credit card debt. I didn't keep receipts. I didn't ask for promises. I just did it because that is what mothers do. And after the wedding, when things didn't get easier, I stepped in again, cooked freezer meals for them when Ashley had back shifts, helped organize the nursery when they had their son, bought diapers, formula, onesies without saying a word about the cost. I babysat when they couldn't afford childcare, stayed up nights when the baby wouldn't sleep, paid utility bills without telling them. It wasn't charity. It was love, and I never expected anything in return, just basic respect. But now, the way they speak to me, the way Ashley looks at me like I am some dead weight from a sad old world, it is like none of that ever happened. Like I have always just been poor Linda, who lingers too long at their door. But what they don't know, what they never cared enough to ask, is that I didn't give up everything. Not all of it. 3 years ago, when my neighbor Helen started that little bakery out of her garage, I offered to help. Not just with labor, but money. She would been turned down for a loan, and I still had enough tucked away to take a risk. So, I did. I gave her enough to get the permits, the equipment, the space. She baked. I handled the books. We didn't advertise it. We didn't post it online. We just built it up one loyal customer at a time. Quietly, a year later, we were profitable. 2 years in, we opened a second location. My name isn't on the storefront, but my hands are in every part of it. The packaging, the bookkeeping, the late-night supply runs. Ashley and Mark never knew, and I never told them. Why would I? They made it clear that my value stopped at what I could hand them directly. I decided a long time ago they didn't need to know I still had resources, that I still had worth beyond free babysitting and casseroles. I kept the secret for the same reason I stopped offering extra help. Because they stopped seeing me as a person. They saw a wallet once, then a doormat. Now just a ghost with bills. But Helen knows. She sees me. She respects what I built, what we built. She tells people even if I don't. Says I am the one who kept the books straight and negotiated better flour prices when suppliers tried to stiff us. She calls me her silent genius. And now, sitting here with my tea and a knot growing in my chest from that awful cafe scene, I realize I am not as helpless as they think. I may look like the kind of woman who folds coupons and walks to save gas, but that is a choice, not a condition. I don't live small because I have to. I do it because I know what it means to build something slowly, piece by piece, without anyone clapping for you. I know how to work in silence. I know how to hold back. And most importantly, I know how to wait. Ashley thinks she has got power because she is a manager at some overpriced cafe with bad lighting and pre-frozen croissants. She thinks she is untouchable because the staff laughs at her jokes and she gets to wear a lanyard. But she has never built anything, never risked anything. She has never had to swallow her pride to make payroll or go without heat to pay rent. She doesn't know what real strength looks like, but she is about to. When Helen first mentioned starting a bakery, it was over coffee in her backyard, sitting on plastic lawn chairs with her old mutt snoring between us. She said it like a joke at first. Maybe I should just start selling my banana bread, instead of giving it away. But I knew she meant it. Helen had lost her job 6 months earlier, and was scraping by on part. Time shifts in pride. I didn't even blink. Do it, I said. She laughed. With what money? That was the first time I told someone I still had something put away. I didn't explain the full story, that I would quietly sold a few leftover antiques from my shop, that I would been living frugal on purpose, saving in silence while pretending to be as broke as everyone assumed. I would just told her I could help. Not a loan. Not charity. A real partnership. I would invest. She would run the baking. She stared at me, like I would offered to buy her a house. 2 weeks later, she had a permit. A month later, her garage smelled like cinnamon every morning. We started small, just muffins and cookies, all wrapped by hand, labels printed from my home printer. I tracked every receipt, every ingredient, and every dollar. We made the first deliveries ourselves. I drove the early morning runs. Helen did the baking. It was hard, brutal at times. There were mornings I would be up at 5 a.m. folding boxes on her floor, while she cried over sunken cakes. But we kept going. I learned what mattered, which suppliers would give us net 30 terms, which Instagram foodies would post if we offered a box for free, how to talk to cafe owners without sounding desperate. By year 2, we had a steady base of repeat clients, and finally enough profit to rent a small retail space. That is when we opened the first branch, still modest, still running on elbow grease, but real. Then came the second, and through it all, I said nothing to Mark or Ashley, not because I was hiding something shameful, but because I would already learned they only valued what I did when it benefited them directly. I remember once, early on, Helen asked why I never told my family about the bakery. I told her the truth, because they wouldn't ask how it is going. They would ask how much they can borrow, and I meant it. Ashley especially had this way of dismissing anything I did, even when it helped her. Like the time I mended a ripped sleeve on her work blazer, and she thanked me with a flat cool before tossing it onto a chair like I was her dry cleaner. She never saw me as someone with skills or ambition, just an old woman with too much time. So I stopped explaining myself. But I never stopped working, and the more the business grew, the more I started to feel like myself again. Not Mark's mom, or Ashley's babysitter, but Linda. A woman who knew how to build something that lasted. I didn't need applause. I just needed proof. I still had it in me, and now, after everything with Ashley at that cafe, her little jokes, the sideways glances, the way she twisted Mark's view of me with half-truths and soft lies, I realized I wasn't just sitting on a business. I was sitting on a weapon. A real one. I would played the role they handed me for so long. I almost forgot I had options, but watching Ashley strut around her cafe like she owned the world, belittling me while I held a rolled scarf in my hands, pretending she was better than me because she had a name tag and an espresso machine that woke something up in me. I didn't need revenge. I needed dignity. And sometimes they look the same. I didn't know what I would do with it yet. Not fully. But I knew I had one card left to play. One they didn't even know I held. And I was getting ready to lay it down. I wasn't planning to go back in. Not after what happened. But a few days passed, and the knot in my chest didn't go away. I told myself it wasn't about Ashley anymore, that I just wanted a tea, maybe something warm on a quiet afternoon. But I think part of me needed to see her again, to remind myself that she wasn't some towering figure who held my worth in her hand. She was just a woman in an apron with a fragile ego and a loud voice. So I walked in, ordered a small tea. The cafe wasn't busy, just a few customers hunched over laptops. Ashley didn't see me at first. She was behind the counter, giving instructions to a younger barista, a sweet-looking girl who looked maybe 20. I watched Ashley point toward the front, then gesture toward a woman near the register, probably in her late 70s, wearing a cardigan too thin for the weather, and counting out coins from a small fabric pouch. The girl looked unsure, but Ashley leaned in and said, "Some of them just come here to chat. You will be stuck at the register for 10 minutes if you let them." It wasn't loud, not like last time, but it was firm like a policy. Then she added with a little smirk, They are cute, but it is not a nursing home, you know. The girl laughed nervously. The older woman, the customer, kept her eyes down, but I could see her cheeks flush. She would heard it. Of course she had. I felt my stomach twist. The customer handed over her coins. The girl rang her up. Ashley walked off like she would said nothing. That is when it hit me. She didn't just do this to me. This wasn't personal. This was how she treated anyone who didn't fit her version of useful. She made people small when she thought no one would push back. I watched the old woman take her tea to the window seat, stirring it slowly, pretending she hadn't heard what everyone knew she had. And I thought, that could be me. That was me, and it wasn't going to happen again. That night, I called Helen and said, "Let's sell the second branch." She hesitated. "Are you sure? You have been so proud of it." I told her the truth. I need the cash. I need to buy something. She didn't ask what. She just said, "Okay, we will call the broker tomorrow." We would already had offers sitting on the table. The bakery was in a great location, and we would turn a real profit the last 2 quarters. Selling one branch wouldn't hurt the business, not long term, but for me, it would free up exactly what I needed. Cash fast. I didn't tell Helen what I had in mind. Not yet. Not because I didn't trust her, but because I was still turning it over in my own head. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want a scene. But I wanted Ashley to know, really know, that I was not the invisible woman she thought I was, that I didn't need her approval or her filtered smile, that I was capable of more than she ever imagined. And I wanted her to learn that lesson the same way she had delivered mine, in public, in silence, and without warning. I spent that evening researching the cafe. Turns out, things weren't going as well as Ashley pretended. The place was behind on rent. Online reviews were spotty, especially about customer service. I even found a job listing that had gone up and come down quickly, like they were scrambling for staff, but couldn't hold on to anyone. And the biggest surprise, the owner was looking to sell, quietly, discreetly. The listing wasn't even public, but I knew how to find things, and I knew who to call. All that silence they thought was weakness. It wasn't. It was preparation. I would bought bigger things in life with more hesitation than this cafe. Furniture. My car. Even my old shop. But this came together like the universe had been waiting for me to finally open my eyes. I called the contact listed in the discreet ad that night, a local business broker I would dealt with once, before during my gift shop days. His name was Tony. Sharp, fast-talking. "Remembered me right away, Linda? From Patch and Paper? Wow. That was years ago. You still in the game?" I told him I might be. Said I was interested in something small. Quiet. He didn't even ask why. Just sent over the details. Turned out, the cafe was bleeding slowly. Rent late for the second time in 3 months. Employee turnover high. Equipment aging. Their social media hadn't been updated in weeks. Tony said the current owner was a decent guy. Just tired, overwhelmed, ready to move on. He wasn't looking to get rich. Just out. He will take a fair offer, Tony said. If you can move quick, I could. Helen and I had just signed papers to sell the second bakery branch. My cut would clear in 3 days. I asked Tony to hold the deal until Friday. He said if I wired a deposit, he would make it happen. I sent it that night. 5,000 quietly. No fanfare. The funny thing was, I didn't feel giddy. I didn't feel powerful. I felt calm, like I would just finished washing dishes after a long dinner. Like I was finally taking care of something that had been sitting too long. On Friday, I met the owner. Mike, mid-40s, looked like he hadn't slept in a month. His handshake was tired. His face soft. When he realized who I was, Ashley's mother-in-law, he looked surprised. Maybe even a little nervous. "You are serious?" he asked. I nodded. "I am." We talked for an hour. I asked about suppliers, about the espresso machine, about payroll. He handed over printouts without fuss. "Look, I am not trying to play games," he said. "The place used to be fun. Now it is just headaches. You want it. It is yours. I will even throw in my customer list and the rest of the inventory. It wasn't the cafe itself I wanted. Not really. It was the position. The ownership. The ability to walk in and say, 'I am not asking anymore.' I signed the papers that same afternoon. The money cleared. I got the keys. We scheduled the transfer for Monday morning. The moment the ink dried, I walked out with the keys in, my hand and a paper folder tucked under my coat. I didn't tell Mark. I didn't tell Ashley. I didn't tell anyone but Helen. When she asked how I felt, I told her the truth. Exactly like I should have felt 20 years ago. She smiled, nodded, and said, "Don't forget to wear something sharp on Monday." That weekend, I didn't celebrate. I cleaned. I reorganized my paperwork. I picked up a pair of flat black shoes I would been eyeing for months, but never let myself buy. Practical, clean. The kind of shoes a boss wears. I didn't practice what I would say. I didn't need to. This wasn't about words. Ashley had made her statement weeks ago, with her jokes, her smirks, her casual cruelty. Now it was my turn to make mine. Not loud, not messy, just final. She would walk in Monday thinking the day was hers. Then she would see me, and that would be enough. Monday morning came with no drama. I got up early, took my time getting ready. Nothing flashy, just a clean navy cardigan, pressed pants, and those new black shoes. I tied my hair back and made myself a simple breakfast, like it was any other day. It wasn't. I arrived at the cafe 15 minutes before open. Mike was there to hand off the final documents and walk me through the key systems. He looked relieved more than anything. Like he was happy to never see another scheduling spreadsheet again. He gave me one last rundown, patted the counter, and said, "Good luck, Linda. I think you are going to surprise a lot of people." He left. I stood behind the counter alone for a minute, just breathing. The lights were still low. The cafe felt smaller somehow. I straightened a few stools, wiped down the register area, checked the supply shelf. Then the staff started showing up, one by one, half asleep and half scrolling through their phones. They noticed me, nodded politely, probably assumed I was some corporate consultant or the new shift lead. None of them knew yet. I kept it simple, gave them their station assignments, and said we would be reviewing some changes later that week. They all moved on. Then, at exactly 8:12 a.m., Ashley walked in, late. Of course, oversized sunglasses on her head, iced coffee. In one hand, phone in the other, purse swinging like she owned the room. She didn't see me at first, was too busy laughing about something with one of the newer girls. Then she reached the register and finally looked up. We made eye contact. She froze, the kind of freeze where your whole body shifts, but your face doesn't catch up. What are you doing here?" she asked, trying to sound casual, but her voice cracked at the edges. I didn't smile. "Didn't Mike tell you? Ownership transferred. I am the new owner." She blinked. "You are joking." I shook my head once. "I am not." She turned to one of the baristas like she needed backup. No one said anything. Just kept restocking or setting up drinks. Then Mike's voice rang out from behind her. He would forgotten his phone and walked back in just in time. "Oh, good. You met Linda. She is in charge now. Treat her well." He grabbed his phone, waved, and left again. Ashley didn't move. Her face did something strange, a mix of confusion, panic, and pride crashing into each other. "Wait. This is a joke, right?" she said again, louder this time. I didn't answer. I just handed her the updated schedule. "You are on register today. You missed pre-shift, so get caught up." I didn't raise my voice. Didn't add anything extra. Just instructions. Clean and sharp. She looked at the schedule, then at me. "You cannot be serious. I manage this place. I looked her straight in the eyes. Not anymore. The barista behind her coughed into her sleeve to hide a smile. Ashley's face flushed. This is ridiculous. You bought a whole calf just to embarrass me. I finally did smile. Just a little. I bought it because it needed better management. You just happened to still work here. She opened her mouth again, but nothing came out. She looked around like someone was going to jump in, take her side, tell me to back off. But no one did. Not one person moved. I turned my back and walked into the office to finish the vendor logs. I heard her mutter something under her breath. Couldn't make it out. Didn't need to. The point had been made. Not loudly, not cruelly. Just clearly. She thought I was broke. She thought I was powerless. She thought she could humiliate me without consequence. And now, she would spend the rest of her shift behind the counter, working for the woman she once laughed at like trash. I didn't fire her. That would have been too easy, too clean. I didn't buy this place for revenge. I bought it for respect. For the dignity she stripped away with every smirk, every whisper, every time she looked at me like I was less than her. So I did the one thing she couldn't handle. I treated her like an employee, a regular one. No title, no special treatment. On Tuesday, I posted a new schedule. Ashley's name was on it. Register, clean up and restock. Same as everyone else. She stormed into the office that morning like she still had power. You are seriously making me clean tables? She asked. I nodded. Everyone rotates. Including you. She stared at me like she couldn't believe it. I have been running this place for 2 years. I looked at her and said, then, you know exactly what needs improving. She didn't argue again, but the way she slammed the rag bucket down said enough. I changed other things too. Quiet things. We stopped using that awful generic syrup the last manager ordered in bulk. I brought in local pastries from a vendor Helen and I trusted. I restructured the tip pool. Evenly, no favoritism. One girl told me she made more in 2 days under my schedule than she had in 2 weeks under Ashley's. I said nothing, just took notes and made sure we had enough stock to get through Friday, without another run to the overpriced supplier Ashley used. Customers started noticing too. One man told me, the place feels different. Calmer. Like someone actually cares. I thanked him and went back to wiping down the pastry case. Ashley saw the shift happening. She felt it. You could see it in her posture. The way her shoulders stayed high, but her words got clipped. Her friends on staff stopped laughing at her stories. Some of them even stayed after hours to ask how I would make the place more efficient. I shared what I could. I didn't gloat. I didn't push. I just worked, the same way I always had, quietly, steadily, thoroughly. And the more I did, the more Ashley unraveled. She came in late twice that week. The second time, I handed her a written warning. She looked at it like it was a joke. You are joking, right? I shook my head. No one's above the rules. Not even you. She folded the paper and shoved it into her purse like it was infected. That afternoon she barely spoke. That was fine by me. I wasn't there to punish her. I was there to run a business. I would inherited her mess. The disorganized ordering system. The poor inventory controls. The chaotic training setup. And now I was cleaning it up. Staff turnover dropped in just days. Customers returned. A couple even tipped directly into the jar with my name on it, saying, "Glad you are in charge now." Ashley heard that one. I saw her flinch. But she didn't say a word. I caught her one evening staring at the schedule board long after everyone else had clocked out. Her name was there, slotted between shifts with the new part. Timer she used to ignore. I stood behind her for a second, waiting to see if she would turn. She didn't, just stood there. Jaw tight, fingers twitching near her side. I said nothing. Just walked past, turned off the front lights, and locked the door behind me. That was the new balance. She worked. I led, and the world didn't end. It just got quieter, better, fairer. Ashley was still in the room. Still, wearing the apron, still showing up, but the shine was gone, the edge dulled. She thought she was untouchable. Now she was replaceable, and everyone knew it. Especially her. I saw it coming days before it happened. The way Ashley moved slower behind the counter, the tight smile that never touched her eyes. How she gripped the edge of the sink after every shift like it owed her something. She thought I didn't notice. But I notice everything now. It was a Friday morning. The rush just starting. The line curving toward the door. She was on bar that day, her least favorite role, and already flustered by a complicated order from a group of college kids. She spilled steamed milk across the counter, then knocked over a cup of ice trying to clean it up. I offered to switch her out, told her to take a breath. She snapped, "I don't need your help." I stepped back, nodded, let her spiral. 10 minutes later, the POs froze, and she couldn't reboot it. One of the new girls calmly stepped in and fixed it. No drama. That is when Ashley lost it. Right there in front of everyone. Customers, staff, a woman filming a coffee vlog near the window. She threw the rag down, slammed the steam wand, and turned to me. "You bought this place just to humiliate me," she shouted. Every head in the caf turned. The line stopped moving. I didn't react, just looked at her and said, "Lower your voice." She didn't. "Don't tell me what to do. You have been setting me up since day one. You demoted me. You stuck me on cleanup. You act like I am some stupid teenager." She was shaking. Her voice cracked. Her eyes were glassy, full of this wild, misplaced rage. I could see it. This wasn't just about the caf. This was about losing control, losing status, losing the version of herself she thought was secure. "You hate me," she hissed. "You always have." One of the customers whispered to her friend, "Is this real?" Another was recording. Phone held just low enough to pretend it was casual. Ashley saw it. That is when her face changed. Panic hitting her full force. She backed away from the counter like she would suddenly woken up in the wrong dream. She mumbled something about needing a break and disappeared into the back room. No one followed. I didn't call after her. I just stepped behind the register and finished the next 3 orders myself. We kept moving. That is what a good shop does. It runs even when someone falls apart. The customer with the phone posted the video later that day. I didn't see it at first, but Helen texted me a link with 3 words. It finally happened. The clip was short, 20 seconds, titled, "When Your Boss Is Your Mother-in-Law and Your Meltdown Goes Viral." By the end of the night, it had 400,000 views. People in the comments called Ashley entitled "spoiled immature." One person even said, "She is lucky to still have a job." I didn't reply. I didn't share it. I didn't even speak to her that night. She stayed in the back room till her shift ended, then slipped out without saying a word. I checked the cleaning list after she left. She hadn't finished her section. I didn't mention it. I just did it myself, humming softly while I wiped down the tables. Let her silence be the apology. Let the internet say what I never had to. The next morning she showed up on time. Eyes swollen, voice quiet, posture different. She didn't look at me, just clocked in and started her shift. And I let her. No punishment, no speech, just the shift she was assigned, and a name tag that now felt heavier than it used to. That was her consequence. Not a firing, not a blowout, just the knowledge that the person she once mocked now had the power to end her, and chose not to. That kind of restraint leaves a deeper scar than revenge ever could. My son called me the next evening. Not Ashley. Mark. His voice was low, like he was trying to measure each word before it landed. "Mom," he started, then paused. "Why didn't you ever tell us you had money?" I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because of the timing. How it took a meltdown and a viral video for him to realize his wife had no idea who I was. "Because you never asked," I said. Silence on the line. I could hear him breathing, waiting for me to say more, but I didn't. I let him sit with it. He finally said, Ashley's not doing great. She hasn't really eaten. She is embarrassed. I nodded, even though he couldn't see it. That is between her and her mirror, I said. Not me. He didn't argue. Maybe for the first time in years he actually heard me. I didn't need his guilt. I didn't want it. I just wanted peace. And now, I had it. The cafe ran smoother with me in charge. The staff respected me. The customers smiled when I walked in. The place had order now. Quiet, steady, real. Ashley still worked there, but everything about her was smaller now. Her tone, her stride, the way she stood at the espresso machine like she was constantly thinking before she spoke. She didn't quit, and I didn't fire her. That was part of it. Every morning she walked past me during opening, tied her apron, and took her spot without protest. I gave her shifts that suited her strengths. Morning service, station rotation, light closing, nothing cruel, just even professional fare. But she knew. Every cup she poured now came with a taste of consequence. The mockery she once threw at me in front of others, replayed daily in her own head. I am sure. And every time she handed me a drink order, I saw it. That flicker. In her eyes, the memory of who she thought I was. What she thought I couldn't afford. The laugh, the scarf in my purse. It all lived there, behind her forced politeness, but I didn't press it. I didn't need to. That moment already belonged to me. A few customers even asked how long I would own the cafe. I told them, just recently. They smiled. One woman said, "You are exactly the kind of person I would want running a place like this." I said thank you, and handed her a fresh croissant. Still warm at home. I started sleeping better. Eating better. I pulled out some old business journals I used to read back when I owned the gift shop. I started sketching new ideas. Nothing big. Just little things that reminded me. I still had vision. Still had something to offer. Helen came by on Sundays, and we would sit and talk about bakery clients, new supplier quotes, maybe even expanding again someday. But for now, I was happy with what I had. I didn't want applause. I didn't need a banner that said you won. I had a key on my chain and a name on the deed, and that was enough. The best part? Ashley never saw it coming. That was always the real lesson. I wasn't poor. I wasn't weak. I was just quiet, and the only reason she ever got away with mocking me was because I let her believe silence meant surrender. It didn't. It meant strategy. And now, every single shift, she clocks in at a cafe owned by the woman she once thought was beneath her. That is not revenge. That is justice. That is it for today. What would you have done in her place? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I love reading what you all think. And hey, if this story hit you, check out these videos too. You will not want to miss them.